What's up, world, and welcome back to Global Frequency. I am Nefarious.
And I'm Frequency
And
Girl.
today we are joined by Russell Nohelty from Wannabe Press, here to talk all about his current crowdfunding campaign, Cthulhu is Hard to Spell, available over on Kickstarter. Russell, what's up?
What's up? What's up? I finally made it to the start of a show. Like, only
Yeah,
took a few tries.
Well, I mean,
it's a cool song.
We had you in towards like the end of the first one. Yesterday, we had technical difficulties for 20 minutes. So today, we're starting on time. We're starting fresh. You're here at the beginning. We're good to go.
Awesome.
First thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to say hi to all the cats in the chat. We got Mo Biggs here. Number one, we got Frog G dropping the links.
Why did they make Cthulhu so hard to spell?
I know, right? I go into it later. I think it's the second H, honestly.
Yes.
That's what I think it is.
It is. And I have a mnemonic device for that.
Oh, okay. We'll hear it in a second. D-Wag, what's up, Bow? We got Rich Ayala, Roach Balls.
Just
Bro,
10K last
congrats. He's up into the 200s, you know, same 100, new 100. We're
times.
doing really well on this campaign. Go check out Roach Balls if you haven't already, guys. It is insanely cool. All hand-drawn, all hand-colored,
Very
without
funny.
digital, traditional medium. It's exceptional. I really am looking forward to this book.
Eric the Guapo.
We also got Eric the Guapo, the
He
most
says
handsome
he's not
Eric
a
of them
cat,
all.
He's a person.
Uh,
And then Movic says at least he didn't
Name Cthulhu after his cat. That is
no,
true.
that's-
That is true. So Russell, before we get into the book, we like to start things off here by getting to know the creator a little bit through a series of incredibly embarrassing and deeply personal questions. You good?
That's my brand. Go for it.
Excellent. So first off, where are you from and where did you grow up?
From Jersey, grew up in DC, and then went to school
awesome.
in Maryland.
Okay, so you're still an East Coaster.
I was an East Coaster until 2008. After school, I left, and I now live in Los Angeles.
Oh, so you did the inevitable Jersey to LA migratory journey.
Well, you know, I went to New York because, like most people, I have and most East Coasters, I have a unfound hatred of Los Angeles for some reason. Like, I don't know where you get it in the Mid-Atlantic, but like it just is. I think you're born with it. And then I went to New York and I was like, man, it's real expensive to live here. I was like, let's try LA. My wife had a bunch of job offers in LA. So we came to LA one time and I was like, we found a place on the beach for like the same price as our house, as like a studio in New York City. And I was like, yeah, let's move here instead. It's way nicer. And like I've lived here longer than I've ever lived anywhere in my life. I've lived in this house longer than I've ever lived anywhere in my life, and I love it. I love it out here. People have the complete wrong opinion of Los Angeles from outside of Los Angeles.
I gotta go check it out then, because when I was, I grew up in New York City, and I guess I've had an irrational hatred of everything on like the West Coast and, northwest of San Andreas. Just in generally, I think you're right. It's like ingrained. You're born with it. So maybe you have to try and get over that. Although we did go to San Francisco that one time, and San Jose, and we went to that little wine place and
in Sonoma.
Sonoma,
and saw the Redwood Forest.
It was an interesting trip. Y'all can't do pizza for shit, so it's like, unfortunately, I don't know if I could do it. Maybe if I could open up a New York style pizzeria.
Maybe.
I keep saying that. Like, if I moved someplace
how to cook,
where they don't really have the best pizza, and I opened up a New York style pizzeria, I think I could do it.
Yeah, except I'd be the one making the pizza. Let's be real.
I mean, yeah, obviously.
I mean, I'm a New Yorker too, so it's okay. It's okay.
I'd be the one running front of house, getting him to come in, right?
I know better than to get into this argument with Los Angeles New Yorkers about pizza or bagels. Like, those are the two. I'm just okay.
Yeah. Those are the two. Yep. I really, honestly, I hadn't had good West Coast pizza. It might exist. I fought with my artist Garrett plenty of times about New York style pizza versus Connecticut style pizza, and they share a border. So, it's not even like East Coast, West Coast. I think it's just me and fighting people over pizza. So
that's true. You also have rules about like what qualifies as pizza.
Everything else is
flatbread. Yes.
Yeah. Bacon, cheddar, provolone with peanut butter. That's flatbread.
I'll be honest, like, I very, very rarely eat pizza. I used to eat pizza all of the time. Since moving to Los Angeles, like, I realized that other food exists, like just a lot of other food that's also very good. That's not pizza or bagels or Italian hoagies or Philly cheesesteaks. Like, I will give you that it's better on the East Coast, but like, there are other foods that can fill that gap for you.
There are. They had some incredible sushi when we actually had strip mall sushi, and it was amazing. They did an omakase style tasting dinner for you. And it was really good in a parking lot. Who knew, right? Yeah. So like, you can probably get some incredible stuff out there. Like, being able to enjoy all sorts of a variety of different cuisines is really helpful in life. And, if you're a traveler, you definitely pick up some skills, like the ability to always eat soup no matter where you go. So you are right. There will be things that fill the void, but I think there will always be, at least in me, a hankering for the pizza. I've gotten over the bagels to some degree, because even here in New England, where we live now, they don't have the best bagels. We do have a bagel place. Amanda B is touching on this subject. She is in the chat. I gotta scroll back to find it. She was saying that Eric said, I lived in LA my whole life. I love it and hate it at the same time. A lot of people feel that way about where they live.
That is the appropriate way to feel about Los Angeles.
What could be so bad about Mo Biggs' country?
So if Mo Biggs lives there, then we have to like it.
Yeah, we do have to. I mean, we have to try and. I thought Mo Biggs was the internet. I guess Silicon Valley.
That's
it. Yeah, that's it. Amanda says New York is not New England, so it's inferior. I don't know how I feel about that, but I left New York, so I'm now in New England. I can, call affiliation to both teams, right?
I also want to say hi to Flying Feline,
Slancha,
and Infinity Comics.
We got Alejandro up in the chat.
Lord Crackhead popped in before.
I saw him up earlier, yeah. And yep. And we got Hockey too, and we've got Dean.
Seen him so long. It's so good to see you.
We got Dean James.
Hey, Dean.
It's time to end the stream.
Is it time to go?
Already time to go.
Dean says there aren't other foods.
just sushi, pizza, and bagels, man. All right. So, do you remember your first comic book? And if you don't, that's okay.
I don't know if I remember my first comic book. The first comic book that I remember is there was a Guy Gardner comic that was wordless. And I don't remember what it was, but it was just him in another, like, on a planet wailing on some like orange or pink or blue massive alien. And like, that's the first comic I remember. And X-Men #1. The Chris Claremont X-Men.
So your first comic book was wordless. So is that like a true appreciation of the artistic element of sequential storytelling without words? Because Alejandro, Infinity, and I were actually talking about this in a chat the other day about storytelling through sequential art with words and without words. And it is possible. He prefers it with words, but is it the wordless element that pulled you in? What got you into comic books and wanting to make them?
Well, that's a whole different story that happens like a decade later. I will say I love wordless comics. My friend Lee Nordling makes really cool wordless comics. He makes one called Bird, Cat, Dog, which can be read like across every page, down every page, or like this every page, and it still makes sense, which was like a really cool thing.
That's insane, man. I need to check that out. That's like some dark wizardry that I can't anticipate. Cat, bird, dog.
Cat, bird, dog, bird, cat,
bird,
dog.
Cat,
I think it's bird,
dog.
cat, dog. And like the bird is always at the top and the cat's always in the middle and the dog's at the bottom or something like that. But like it's really cool. It's really cool. My origin story for comics came in 2010 after I moved to Los Angeles and failed at screenwriting for a long time. It came in 2008.
That's kind of what happens to a lot of the people that I know, either working in film or television, specifically screenwriters, people, writing episodically. They eventually either get tired of it, don't want to do it. It's too hard. It's too crowded, whatever. So they go either into comics or into self-publishing comics, and they're incredibly happy or far happier working in that medium.
Well, it's because that you have like you rely so much on other people in movies and TV. Like even as no matter what your role is, like you can't go make something on your own. Like a producer needs directors, even a writer who can write something from scratch, like still needs a team to bring it all together. And true. Comics are kind of like a visual medium that makes sense to someone who thinks visually. And so my manager at the time handed me a bunch of comics and were like, this movie thing's not working out for you. Try this. And I was like, I opened it and I like immediately got it. Like I hadn't read a comic in maybe 10 years at that point, but like suddenly I saw it and I saw like what was possible for like me to do in comics as someone who'd produced movies before and directed TV shows and all this stuff, to like do something on a very small scale. That I mean, I never made big movies. The crews were maybe like 10 to 15 people. But like this was talking about 2 people. Me and Renzo have done 16 issues of Ichabod, and like it was just the 2 of us and a proofreader and then someone to help with color assist, and like that was the whole team. Which is like you just can't do that. You just can't make that movie. You need other actors to make a movie.
I ask people all the time if they've got experience in screenwriting and film. I ask them what's better about making comics. And most people say, like, you don't have to worry about the budget, or you don't have to have the expensive equipment. You don't have to, be either director, writer, or cinematographer. And it was only really Don Chin that came out and said, you don't have to work with actors. And I was like, or absolutely, or anybody, but specifically, you don't need actors. The characters that you draw just do what you want them to. They do them exactly the way you want them to. You don't have to take, people. I said craft services because honestly, like, having to deal with craft services is a real big pain.
But that's the food.
It is the food, but it's not necessarily the best food. It's the same food over and over.
Sometimes
I actually really liked working craft services. I would do movies, and like people would always be like, "Wow, you brought healthy food," because like everyone would bring chips and stuff, and I'd be like, I go to like Costco and get like grapes and like blueberries and stuff on set. So, but I mean, I don't think I really like the collaborative process. It's that like there's so many failure points. So I was talking about this on a show yesterday where like an anthology has a lot of failure points, but like no single artist not delivering will destroy your
sink a book.
Will still sink a book. Like you have 34 stories or 38. I think we had like 38 stories and 4 didn't come in. So like we still have a 180-page book. Awesome. The way Travis does it is insane. Where like he has failure points and any one of them could like blow up the ship. But like with a movie, that is also true. Like there are 1,000 failure points, and most of them, like if an actor is sick one day or a DP is gone, or like like there's so many things that can go wrong, even if everyone's working with the best of intentions. I would say it's no overnights. Like you don't work overnights when you work in comics, and like overnights are the worst.
That I mean, if you're an artist trying to hit a deadline, you might work a couple of overnights.
But if you're a writer, probably in your house though, not like
that is true. Not on location.
Like
not at
your
the studio.
own scheduling.
So are there any comic book creators, past or present, that you admire or who influenced your development as a writer?
So writer, I would say the number one is Brian K. Vaughan. He did his run on Why the Last Man and the first trade. He did the first. He was the one who did the original Runaways, right? Like he did the first part of Runaways. I don't want to speak, but like that was like a mass. That first trade is like the best twist in like the last 20 years in comics. I think. I mean, the rest of it you can. you can contend that is like definitely does not live up to the expectation, but that first trade was like revelatory for me. And his work on Why the Last Man, Garth Ennis on Preacher.
Ennis is great.
Yeah,
Preacher was great.
I love parts of Transmetropolitan for sure. Definitely, it's got like 10 real good issues.
It does. It has some really good stuff in there.
And like, especially when
Crooked
it starts
Little
becoming
Vein was
like
great.
a story. Yeah. I mean, I tend to like long form stories. So the first like 30 issues of Transmetropolitan are like get on with a story. Like, this, come on, let's get like somewhere. The second half I really like.
He's doing his whole Fear and Loathing introduction where he's dragging it out to the point where it's like, okay, now we can start the book. But I mean, I didn't mind because I was really busy looking at Derek Robertson's art. So it's like there's this whole crazy future going on in there. And I was
I generally don't like bad people. Like reading about bad people, like people that are just like kind of despicable.
With you. Like really despicable people. Yeah, but there was something about Spider where I was like, you know what? Like I kind of do like this guy.
I think it's
kind of like how dissatisfied
he
was. He was annoyed with everything, you know? And I felt a kinship to that when I was like a teenager in those like late teens, early 20s, where I was just kind of like, fuck the world, I hate it here. And like that's what he names the article. I hate it here. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get you, bro. I get you.
We're friends.
For sure. I really love Brian K. O'Malley's. I'm not saying anything like I have a lot of like independent influences, like Aaron Alexovich, who does Serenity Rose, and like Walter Osley, and like artists who like most people haven't heard of, but like I give like the greatest hits of the ones because like when I started doing comics, like they give you the big ones, right? Like you read they're like, here's the glut of big ones. And like, you're probably going to pull something out of that hat that is from the big ones as like your biggest influence. I tend to dislike comics that are overly wordy. And what I really appreciate about Brian K. Vaughan is he's the first writer that I ever read that like, it felt like there was he let the imagery do the work. And then he complemented it with dialogue instead of having dialogue and then there's some imagery behind it. Like, I know that's a slight distinction, but I was like, this is the perfect amount of dialogue for this panel. And like, I kept feeling that throughout the whole course of the book.
We all want to create comics full time, right?
Sure.
But in the mortal words of Karen Nicole, I was actually trying to look up a quote from Pootie Tang when you said Brian K. Vaughan that reminded me of something. So I'm going to try and find that while you answer this question. In the immortal words of Karen Nicole, everyone's got a side hustle. Other than running Wannabe Press, you also own the Complete Creative and are CEO over at Wavelength Mobility. Tell us about those endeavors.
My Wavelength is a bill-paying endeavor. I own a Verizon dealership that does B2B. I've owned it since 2015. My last job before going full-time was I owned a Verizon. I managed a Verizon B2B dealership and a Sprint B2B dealership. And then I split with the partners at the Sprint dealership, and I just took the Verizon dealership to myself. So yeah, that's a real annoying part of my life. It slowly becomes less and less. It used to be like 80% of my money came from Wavelength, and then no one really cares about Wavelength anymore, and so like no one works on it, and so like it's a very small amount of our money right now. But some months like it'll be a $10,000 month, and like those are pretty good months. Usually it's like $1,000 to $2,000 that it'll bring in. The nonfiction came straight from fiction, and oddly, I wrote my first nonfiction book, so people would quit asking me questions about how to break in. My book was called originally called "Sell Your Soul: How to Build Your Creative Career," and I recently changed it to "How to Build Your Creative Career" because boring titles sell better online. And it was literally just like I did a bunch of panels at shows to bring people to my table, and those people kept asking me questions at my table and not buying my books. Which I don't mind, but like I am trying to like run a business here. So like I made a book and I was like, here's all the stuff. Here it is. Here's everything.
Was that actually the first book?
Not that I published, but like
okay,
it's the first nonfiction book. It's the first nonfiction.
It was the first
book.
Nonfiction because you've done so much. You know,
I had about
you're
6 books before then.
You're an accomplished author and publisher. You've written several series of novels, including Godverse Chronicles and the Obsidian Spindle series. You've created comic books like Ichabod Jones and Katrina Hates the Dead. And you've edited anthologies such as Monsters and Other Scary Shit. And now Cthulhu is Hard to Spell. There's a veritable library of material that we could talk about that's helped you become a USA Today best-selling author. So let's talk about I Can't Stop Tooting.
Let's do it. The only book that I've ever published that has nothing to do with me.
Well, you were editor on it, right?
Yes, and published it. So Garrett Gunn wrote a Facebook post one day that said, "I'm going to write a book about why I can't stop farting in front of my wife." And I was like, I will publish that sight unseen. And I was not lying. I did. I published it. He eventually like worked with Nick on making the book, and like we had a little bit of tightening up to do, but yeah, I mean, basically, this is a love story between Garrett Gunn and his wife, who is apparently very, 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 very farty. Garrett is.
I was it sounds like a Camel Moon biography. I know, right? I was perusing your catalog just to try and get a better sense of the stuff that you've written, and it really is extensive and very impressive. And there were a couple of titles that stood out. The one about the pickle and this one. And I was just like, I have to ask him about
Sure.
I Can't Stop Tooting. Where did it come from? What, like the whole story behind it. I was dismayed when I found out you didn't write it. I really was. I was like, it's heartbreaking.
I'm dismayed I didn't write it too. I mean, it's a great title. Like, and that was the title that he came up with right off the bat. Yeah, I ended up realizing that like, it was one of the titles that really made me realize that like a publisher and a writer really has to specialize on like a format and like a genre and like something to like break through. Because I was doing like sci-fi books and mystery novels and farting books and like children's books. And I have another children's book that I wrote called Little Bird and the Little Worm. And like, it was too much. Like it was just too much stuff. And people were like, I don't want all these other stuff. Just make monster books. And then I did. And like, shockingly, it worked.
So you said you published about 6 other books before you started publishing the nonfiction titles, like How to Break Into the Industry and how to sell your book on Kickstarter. What were those books? Which was the first one that you did?
Okay. So the first book it was Ichabod Jones, Monster Hunter, Katrina Hates the Dead. Those are the first 2 comics, and a book called and a single issue floppy called Paradise.
So you started off with comics before you started novels?
I did. I started comics in 2010 and 11, actually with that Wannabes title, which is an 8-page ashcan. So I don't count that one because it's not complete. It's not like a full thing. It's just like the very beginning of a book. It's like, but that is the first thing I ever made. And then but I never sold it. It was like a pitching sample that no one bought. So I
have to admit, it was infuriating. I was trying to go through them all, hit the ISB and try and find the publication date. And I just gave up. I was like, his library is too big. I will never find the first one that he did. So I'm sorry, please continue.
It's the Wannabes. It's that one. It's fake superheroes get real superpowers, very much like Miss Marvel. That's coming out, except in 10 years ago, people said that it wasn't a marketable thing to do. And like 10 years later, like, I guess I win, but
Before
like not. It was from that we did Ichabod, Paradise, and Katrina. And then my novels were, I had My Father Didn't Kill Himself and Gumshoes. And then I had The Little Bird and the Little Worm. And those were like the first 6 books. I released 3 in 2015 and then 3 in 2016.
What's Space Cops?
Space Cops is a behemoth title that they put out. I don't know what Space Cops is. I had a short story in it about a robot, about a killer robot that befriends a cat. And so that's a lot of these are anthology pieces that I've done, like soccer I did for Garrett's Charlie Foxtrot anthology. And a lot of these are like I had 5-10 pages in the book or a few thousand words in the book.
Yeah, that looks familiar, right?
Yeah.
I try to put stuff up
as
soon as there's a link. I try and put it up as soon as possible. So,
Nice.
I mean, it's smart because, you grow the library that way, and anyone who's looking for that thing will find you and then suddenly find this incredibly long list of titles that you've worked on and been like, wow, well, like, look at some of the, the cover art here, and they'll go, oh, yeah, I've heard of Ichabod Jones. I don't remember quite where, but, oh, this is the guy that did that. Let's see what else he's done. Really, it's like going down a rabbit hole looking at your stuff. And I think, that's saying something given, Alice in Wonderland and all of that, right? You said on the last stream, I think Alice is your favorite character. Is that true?
Alice, it's tough because I really love Alice and Dorothy, but I just read 14 Dorothy books, and Dorothy's kind of a pill in like the last 10 of them. So like I'm going back to Alice as my favorite.
Right on, man. I dig it.
Maybe it's only because she only had 2 stories.
Yeah, no, but I would agree with that. I think there's something just slightly more appealing about Alice than Dorothy, and I love Dorothy.
Dorothy, she is a bit of like
she
I like
does,
the description. She's a bit of a pill.
You kind of hit it.
I like Alice, like you were saying about her cadence and the way that she just approaches things with kind of a childlike. I don't want to say innocence, but like curiosity of, oh, what's this horrible thing that we're about to experience? Oh,
all right,
how strange! Yeah, like there's something enjoyable about that. Yeah,
so something like, I'm going to chop off your head, and she's like, huh, interesting.
How about that?
I like that.
I've never thought about that before.
It could have been because she was like high on LSD,
I mean,
but it could also just been.
But even that, it was like, here, random food and drink labeled "Eat me, drink me." Sure, why not? I'll try.
Yeah, but honestly, like some people really are, fun to be around when they're high. So
yes, true.
If you're gonna write about them, so yeah, you got your nonfiction stuff going on too, like how to get your book selling on Kickstarter and how to become a successful author. Why would you help the competition?
Because I'm 6 months ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, I thought it was because
there's actually 2 reasons. The first is like no one ever does it. Like I could give you all my advice right now, and no one would like. I could tell 1 million people, and 4 of them would actually show up and like actually do the work. So like that makes it easy because no one actually does it, and you still get the credit for being altruistic. And second, like I'm already ahead of that. I've already mastered all of this stuff. Most of success is like come in the repetition, and like I've done Kickstarter 20 times before.
21.
Like you're not gonna like outpace me on Kickstarter. And if you do, awesome. Like now I can promote with you. Now I can do stuff like you. Once you get into the club,
hey, you're on my level. Yeah.
Finally on the stuff. And like, it's, I mean, I joke a little bit, but like it's really, I do want people to succeed. What I have found over the years is like, no one will actually follow the advice. In fact, I have dozens of examples of creators who gave me advice, and then I did it and it worked. And they've told me, wow, no one's ever actually like followed my advice before. I don't quite know what to do with it now.
I feel like Brian, Aerith would kind of understands that I have this great advice.
Great idea that no one wants to listen to. And then 9 months from now, people will be like, I had this great idea. And Brian said the same thing with Maddie Fowler. Fowler being like, I think I'm going to write a supernatural Western. And nothing comes of it. And then 2 years later, you've got
like, oh my God,
King Spawn and all these supernatural Westerns coming out. Yeah, it's infuriating. I thought maybe it was because that the competition just isn't as good as you. So helping them get onto Kickstarter and get exposure just makes you look even better by comparison because you're just that good. And if they're seeing you and then all these other people, it's just like, well, of course we're going to go with Russell's stuff. It's clever. I like it.
Well, the other thing is Jim Zub really influenced me as a creator.
Yeah,
I did,
he's
and I don't
such
even
a nice guy too.
Yeah, and I don't even mean through Skull Kicker or anything. I meant like he had a blog that told you everything that happened in his whole.
So I learned to write scripts.
Yep.
That's how I learned to write scripts.
Yeah. And like I was blown away by it. And I decided that like if I ever got to a place that would like I decided I could not I could not determine whether I was going to be successful. I could only determine like the actions that I took. But what I could do was model the people that like I admired. And so like I could give my advice to people. If it might be bad advice, I've always said I'd either want to be a horrible warning or a shining example. And I really didn't care which. And like for the majority of my, and the majority of my career, I was a terrible example. Like I was just a bad example of like things. And I wanted to, but like there were enough nuggets that I pulled out of there that like they really helped me. And like I would start seeing people like rise up and tell me that I was helping them. And like that's a real powerful drug. It's like a real powerful drug.
Validation.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like people going, hey, your words inspired me or helped me, or I owe some of my success to you, or what you showed me helped transform what I was doing into a marketable product. Yeah, there is definitely something about that feels rewarding and fulfilling. Absolutely agree. And I think it's awesome that you credit Jim with a lot of that, because a lot of people, like, I don't know if he's very well known or even as appreciated as he should be, because he has given out just a lot of his stuff for free to help people become, comic book creators. We met him at a couple of panels. We hung out with the guy, we went sat there talking.
At Fan Expo Boston, and he was just like talking, because it was right when we were first starting up to start and work on our stuff, and he was like,
he's just very
his
real,
books and be like, so this panel, and you want to do it like that, and like just kind of showing us and talking for like almost an hour at least.
Yeah, he cuts right to it. He's very real. He's very like, oh, this is how you want to do this. If you want to achieve that effect, if you want the readers to feel this way, do it like that. And no hesitation. I really dig that as a creator.
I really like
I really want that to be how successful people operate also. Like I find
just giving out the knowledge. I agree.
Like I can kind of tell how successful you are by like how freely you are excited for other people. Like, cause I mean, there's like a at the top, there's this little competition because there's very few Marvel spots to go around, right? So like there's probably some legitimate competition up there. I've never seen it, but like I'm assuming that there is. And then there's this huge competition at the bottom. But like in the middle where most creators lie, like you should just be happy for other people's success, and like you should give freely and then let other people give freely. And like I do charge for the books mostly because it's exhausting.
That is how you make your money. And that's also printing costs and all of that. Obviously, we want to buy your product too. You can't give someone something as spectacular as a comic or a book or anything and not charge money. It was one of the first lessons that I learned. I was like, I just want to make my comic for free and give it away. And Jim was like, no, you don't do that ever. Yeah. You make them pay money because nothing valuable costs nothing. You have to charge.
Yeah, and so like when someone buys the book, like they are saying that this thing has value. They are assigning value to it, and they're saying this is on my stack of stuff that I have to do. When they're just getting it for free, like a lot of this stuff washes over everyone. Washes over me too. Like I do a lot of free challenges and free stuff and like all this stuff, and like it's not as impactful as the stuff that I paid for. Sometimes bitterly, but like oftentimes, like I will at least like I'll skim read a lot of stuff because like a lot of stuff's just average, and like but like when I actually buy something, like I am not skim reading it because I put money into it. Like I'm actually reading that book, and like it's very different than getting it for free. I also feel like it's like pitching a perfect game. Like the advice I give in panels and stuff are like I'm usually exhausted because I've been up for 72 hours and. Like I'm giving it for free, but like it's going to be a muddled, jumbled mess. Whereas like the books and the courses and all of that stuff is like, here, this is like I pitched a perfect game every time. Right. And like this is what I said on the panel. I don't know what I said, but I know what I said here is accurate.
Right.
Whenever I'm giving out the insight, because I'm still an amateur creator myself. I know there are a lot of things I don't know, but I also know the things that I do know are solid. And those are tested. because I learned them from people who are tested, and I also applied them, put them to the test, and they succeeded. And I always find myself when I'm giving like the insight or something, I always wear myself out. So like exactly what you're saying just really resonates over here, because you want to do a thorough job.
Right.
And yeah, I'll buy everything. I'll buy everything because not only is it research, not only am I showing the people that I value, the stuff that they're putting out, and I want to add it to my stack of everything that I have. But
like a dragon, but instead of gold,
it's all everything. And I gotta say, like 70 to 90% of stuff is just crap. Like in general, it's crap. And that's for everything. It boils down to that. There are very few golden things out there. We were just talking about Transmetro, right? Like, well, 70% of the series is probably not stuff you really wanted to read. You said there's 10 issues in there that are really good. And we're all putting out stuff. You've got a crazy extensive library. I know you're not going to say every single one's a winner. You're going to say some of them were good enough. Some probably weren't. And there are a couple that you're really, really proud of. I've gone the opposite route and done this whole like pursuit of like the one work that I'm really happy to put out there. And I don't know if that was the right way to go about things. I probably should have published a lot more during my life. But I was afraid to be, a failure or be seen as a failure. Speaking of accomplished people, we got Dave Brink in the chat. I just wanted to shout him out. Genuine Comics is kicking butt. You should really take a look at Dave Brink's library of stuff. It's very good. And Perfect 10 #3 is excellent. I don't know if it's still active. I don't remember. It's still active. Mo says, if you want advice on kickstarting some sensual harassment in the workplace, Neff can teach you how to reach for that brass thigh. I can indeed. If you want to come work for me, I will be somewhat appropriately inappropriate with you on
I
screen.
thought that was just reserved for Garrett.
Only
I
my
don't
artists.
even. I'm saying
Only
like
my artists.
I don't even get that.
You are quite successful in crowdfunding. You mentioned that earlier. You've had 21 Kickstarters under your belt. When did you start crowdfunding your work, and what challenges have you faced, and how'd you overcome them?
So I started with Indiegogo. I did 2 print run campaigns for Katrina Hates the Dead in like 2012 and 2013. I don't even think they're on the platform anymore. Like this is back when they like deleted stuff from their platform. I don't think they do that anymore. But they were not successful. They were way overcharged by like $50 or something for like a manga sized like 100-page book, like way overcharged. And I did not fund. I had like some people who helped me, which like they're lovely people, like that like would pay so much extra money for like a book. But I quickly learned that if you wanted to succeed at a high level, like you had to figure out how to make your books palatable to the masses of people and priced the way that people would buy them. And so I then started. I moved to Kickstarter in 2014, and I never looked back from that Kickstarter decision. I put my books still at the end, the big ones on Indiegogo still for the in demand after the campaign.
Well, that's smart. Over. It's just smart to fund on Kickstarter and then be able to go over there in case people missed that 30-day window, or they'd rather back on Indiegogo than on Kickstarter, or just it's smart to have a place other than your website where they can go in crowdfunding while you're collecting all the money to be able to print. So yeah. I think I commend you for doing that. I'm looking at your Indiegogo thing right now. You got like 9. You got Ichabod. You got Cthulhu's Hard to Spell. The 2 Lovecraft anthologies. You got more Ichabod. You did My Father Didn't Kill Himself. You did fund Katrina Hates Dead Shit, and you funded well. I guess that would be the 3rd time. 100 and
that started on Kickstarter, then moved to Indiegogo too. So
got it. So that went in demand. Okay.
Yeah, right. That was in demand. So they I mean, the thing that I really learned, the biggest mistake that I made is thinking that if you put it out, people will come. This was way before even Kickstarter. This was back when I was making movies. Like I assumed that if I made a movie that was good or even mediocre, like people would just come to it. And like that is absolutely not the case One, you have to put out really good stuff, and two, you have to be very passionate about it, and you have to continuously build the brand. You have to continuously do it. So I was just talking about this yesterday. My friend was saying that like one of the mistakes that authors make is determining ROI on any ad set that they do. And like ROI or like the profitability of any ad set, like ROI should be determined by like seeing things as a whole and being able to understand that campaigns build on each other over time. And like generally what happens today is in sales, I used to be a sales manager. So in sales, what you learn is what you do today is predicated on 6 weeks, is what you make 6 weeks from now. And it really trips a lot of people up because the sales cycle for salespeople is generally, oh crap, I need to eat, run real hard. And then the next month they like chill and they're making a lot of money because of but they think that what's happening is they're making the money in the good times, but they're not making the money in the good times. They're making the money when they're hustling, and then they're taking their foot off the gas, which is how the next month they'll be they'll be down again and then up and then down. And it kind of is very counterintuitive and hard to like break this habit. But like the actions that you foster over long periods of time have value. I was talking about yesterday, like some of these live streams that we do, like don't result in any backers. And we've done maybe 20 of them so far in this campaign. But like, you never know if this campaign, if this live stream and then the next live stream and then the next email are like the sequence that brings someone to the campaign. You don't know if someone sitting on sees the campaign now and is like, I don't know, do I want to spend $200 now? Or like, what do you want to, like, you don't know that for sure. Like when we get very bogged down with this idea of analytics and that like we can predict everything, like, oh, this thing has a 0.1% a 10 cent click-through rate, which leads to this many sales. But like what really happens is like someone just got the link and like accidentally clicked somewhere else, or like they see the link on your website, but then they go to Kickstarter, or like then they see it on Facebook and then Facebook gets the referral tag, and all of these factors get into place. So what you really need to what really needs to happen is like you need a 365, like 52 week a year strategy for reaching new people. And when you're during a campaign, that is one strategy. Usually I get the most signups to my mailing list during a campaign for like people who don't back. Like they just will go to the website and they'll download the freebie that we have. And like, then they might back 2 campaigns from now. My friend, Tyler, who runs Comics Launch, said like, we have people on our list that like have been dead for a year, have not opened for a year. And they come back and they back like $500 of stuff. Like you just kind of, it's really frustrating because you just don't know. Like you don't know what those dead emails are going to do. You don't know. I just tried BackerKit Launch for the first time, which is BackerKit's kind of like email management system. And I talked to the group that I'm part of for like, and I was like, should I really do this? Like, should I really, like, I literally have access to all of my backers. Like this seems ridiculous to spend $100. And they're like, yeah, but if you make $200, it's another $200. I tried it. I made like $2,000 in like a week from like in the middle of my campaign from like what I would have considered like the dead zone. And we now are like $2,000 above where I predicted we would be, even though we had like a very down day and we're like under negative $200 today. We have this.
You got refunds?
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
We had
one person drop and 2 people, one person dropped completely $120 and 2 people dropped down from like $100 or $150 to $20. But we've got like 5 new backers today. Or 3 new backers today, but like they've only backed for like $60 and we lost like $300. It's one of those things that happen once you're funded. Like people sort of reassess when they know that this is actual real money and not just like
in theory money.
Bits and stuff. Like they're like, oh, I really am going to owe $200. Like I'm not really going to do this, and they like adjust their pledges. But it's really interesting when you look at these things, because like you might see this as a failed day, but like I see it as a great day because like we had 4 new backers. Hopefully we'll get a couple from this.
Yeah, you have no idea where the exposure is going to come from. Like I might tell someone I had Russell Nohelty on. He's super cool. Check out his. Oh, I know you like Cthulhu. Go check out his thing, and they'll be scrolling through. Oh, he's got a course that'll tell me how to build a fan base. You know, I think I'm going to get that. Where the hell did that come from? You know, like that's all the interactive or interconnected web of creators that we have who all want to be working together and getting better and finding new cool stuff. And that's, you know, like you said, you can't put a price on that.
Yeah. And you can't, you have to like keep the marketing machine going, I guess you have to keep, and by marketing, I don't mean like doing buy my book ads every like week or anything. I mean like doing collaborations and like figuring out how to like do backer update swaps with people and like providing value to your fans on social media and on your email list, and having an email list that you reach out to then once a week. And like all of those, if you have a podcast or whatever, the other thing, like giving consistent, there's all of these sort of principles that are very boring. But I make my living on boring principles. And this is the thing. This is one of the really tough lessons for people who are entrepreneurs is they want the sexy, flashy thing. But the thing that actually will make your business function are the most boring thing. They will make your eyes roll back in your head. Like they are just so boring. And it's so hard. It's so hard to do them because all we want to do is be like, no, I'm going to unlock TikTok. Or like it's gonna be the thing. Like I'm gonna like hire like a sexy model to stand next to my table, and like that's gonna solve all my problems, even though my book looks terrible. Like just like good book design, like consistent marketing, because no one is consistent. Like no comic creator is consistent with their marketing. They just are not. Like the fact that like Scott Snyder is consistent with like sending me emails is like kind of a shock to me. And like that there's like 5 creators who actually like will do an email once a week is like really, really, I'm really like shocked at like that anyone is consistent, because until Substack became a thing, it was like literally people would send an email maybe if they had a Kickstarter live, and that was it. And you can't build a fan base that way. You can't build a community that way. And that is what we're all trying to do. We're trying to plug into each other's community to make a community stronger. And we're trying to deliver books to cool people who want those books. And it requires you to be a steward of that community when you're live, and like not just do the buy my book emails when you're live, but it also means being a good steward when you are not launching. And that comes in all things. Like some people like will share a lot of projects, or I tend to like try and do like long involved blog posts about business, which are very boring, but like very effective. Or like, but whatever it is, like you have to be like, you're not just a creator the day that you launch your campaign. You're a creator every day, and you need to be part of the community. And the most important part of the community is being friends, not like work friends or like swap friends, but like friends with other humans who like you and want to be around you. Because the chips are going to be down. They're going to be down. Like you're never going to be like on the top forever. You're not going to be at the bottom forever. You're probably going to be like, you're going to be in the squishy middle forever, 99.9% of your life, even if you're like Scott Snyder. Or like Kelly Sue DeConnick, like you are going to be in the squishy middle where you don't quite know where you stand. And like on those days, all you can be proud of is the work you've done, the creators that like trust you and that you're friends with, and the fans who like your work. Like those are the 3 buckets. That's all you got. Like at the end of the day. That was a big ramble. Sorry about that.
I mean, it's they're truth bombs.
Yeah,
you know, like, and it's very valuable stuff
yeah.
that you're saying. Delicat Art said she was feeling called out because the stuff that you're saying is really, you know, like hitting home. Genuine Comics wanted to ask if crowdfunding and making comics is your main job. I don't know. Do you consider it? I know you have the B2B business kind of as your passive income in a way. And this is sort of what occupies most of your time. Would you consider this your main job?
Yeah,
or is it your side
I
hustle?
make about 65% of my money through like Kickstarter and ancillary like sales, because you also have then the backer kits and the add-ons
Yeah.
to Indiegogo and all
And
of
then you
that
got your
stuff.
website.
Yeah,
and
I think I
Amazon.
made something like $74,000 out of $110,000 last year from
Nice.
like Kickstarters and book sales. It changes every year though. Like the year before that, I
Right.
made most of my money doing book marketing for other
Right.
people, like running viral giveaways and helping them build their mailing list and like course sales. So like I do think that it's my main source of income. I don't say I'm a full-time comics book writer though, and I wish we would really take that equivocator off of the beginning of the word writer, because like I write comics, I write nonfiction, I write kids books, I write novels, I write short stories, I also edit stuff.
Yep.
And like all of those things are like a part of being a writer. And I think that in order to be a really effective writer, it often takes writing in different mediums to be a writer. And like I know Marv Wolfman, not to like drop a name, but like, you know, Marv Wolfman created the Teen Titans and is like outside of Stan Lee, the most successful comic book creator probably of all time. And he said like comic book writing dries up, book writing dries up. He did 100 episodes on Pocket Dragons. He's like he wrote Epic Mickey 2, and like sometimes like the well dries and you have to find a new well. You have to dig a new well. And so to say you're a comic book writer, not that it's not, comics aren't great. Like I love comics, but like it just puts you in a box, and it also it negates your unfair advantage. Like the an artist has an unfair advantage in comics, and everyone talks about it all the time, which is like they draw. So like they can sell original art, they can sell commissions, they can do all this other stuff that like writers can't. But a writer can ship a book off to an artist and work on a novel. They can work on a web series. Like they can work on 10 projects in the time that artist is drawing one project. So yes, they have an unfair advantage, but so do we. And saying that we're only one kind of writer negates that one thing that the most important thing, which is the velocity that we can work on projects compared to an artist.
That's absolutely true. Artists do get sucked into doing a book, and doing that art takes, you know, that is usually what holds up the book. Writers can get the concept, they can hammer out the script, they can be done very quickly. Like Mike Oden will do a script in a week.
Yeah.
It takes me a lot longer because I obsess over things. I obsess over the number of words in a bubble. I obsess over the amount of dialogue on a page. I'll obsess about, you know, the specifics of character dynamics, staging, layout and stuff. But that's comics. At the same time, I can just completely free write books. And like you were saying, you don't want to restrict yourself to being one type of author. But someone like you who's put out nonfiction books, you've put out novels, you've put out comics, you've edited anthologies, and you've done, you know, like smaller form reader books. You actually can live that. And as an example, you know, can tell people to do that. It's not as easy for some people who've kind of found their niche doing comics, say, or doing novels, because they are different skill sets. Would you agree that they're different skill sets?
It is very hard to do all of the things I just mentioned. Nonfiction is very different than fiction, and comics are very and short is much different than long. Like they're all very different skill sets. But like if you want to have a career doing this, like you're going to have to develop those skill sets. Like even Scott Snyder or Kelly Sue DeConnick, like they're not just long form comic writers. Like they write anthology pieces as well. Brian K. Vaughan was a writer on Lost while he was writing Y the Last Man. So was Bendis. Bendis was a writer on Lost, like during his most successful runs in comics. So like these are the guys who like set the bar, right? Like they set the bar for like comics in the last 20 years. And even they're not only doing comics, like they're doing all sorts of stuff. And so I can say that the reason that I did all of these other things was I would sit there and go, what do I do for the next year until I get this book back? And I was like, I guess I'm going to write a novel, or I'm going to do this other thing. I'm going to do this other thing. And it's only now that I have a body of work that I hear that actually where people go, yeah, but you've done all of this stuff. And I was like, oh crap, I guess I have done all that stuff now that I was like saying was like a thing you should be doing. But I live it. I can tell you that it works because like I live it. Like I know that if you can write comics and novels and short form, like people will hire you to write short form. They will hire you. You literally triple the amount of stuff
you have versatile options for your career. You can be hired through any of these different outlets. You can be writing short form or comics or novels because you're established in that form. Absolutely. We got Arrogant Ape coming in saying, I love the Ichabod Jones series. I might be one of those backers that went dead for a time. Gonna fix that now. So it's great to see one of those guys that like, you impressed early, but maybe they fell off, those emails died. He's back in it. That's fantastic to see. I'm so glad that, we can connect with audience members who, are excited about these kinds of books. I'm very excited for this anthology. I know I'm going to go get some of the books that I missed.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
And so Genuine Comics also says, I got to say, Russell is a great guest. He's
fascinating to listen to. So, everyone's really appreciating all of the stuff that you're saying, all the insight that you're giving. I do feel a little bit bad that we haven't spoken at all about the campaign. Would you like to take a look at it really quickly?
Let's talk about this campaign.
Cool. Let's talk about it real quick.
So we are now in the positive today. So thank you for that. This is the third book in our Cthulhu is Hard to Spell series, which is 107 stories about the gods and monsters of H.P. Lovecraft. This is our Fundle bundle at the top, which is basically you back, even at $1, you get all of these digital comics. And I unlock more every week. So it's a real good deal. This is one of the reasons why Kickstarter really works well for us, because like we offer all of these extra stuff. I communicate with all of our friends to try and get all of this together. You can get a 90-page sample. I was saying that I get a lot of people from my mailing list. It's because of this. Like they just at the top, a very simple thing to do to get more backers is to offer, like, this is the time that the most people are going to be viewing your work. So like, let them join your mailing list now, even if they don't back. The third volume is the motif is wrestling. There is a big wrestling story in the inside, which I wrote with my long-term collaborator Eric Lervold.
I was going to say the clothesline looks fantastic. It was the story that I'm actually most excited to get into is the wrestling story. Daniel Warren Johnson's got a wrestling story coming out this year, and there's something about like the
a drop to the head, I think it's called, or something
no, it's do a power bomb.
Do a power bomb. I don't know. I knew it was like something. Never mind. I don't know where I got.
Wrestling's a thing. We all know and love wrestling. Anyway, please continue.
Sorry.
Yeah, so the biggest complaint that I got was the first two covers don't really match anything that's in the book. So I wanted for this one, since this will be my last time editing one of these, I wanted to do something. And Eric loves wrestling. Like, I like wrestling. Eric lives wrestling. Like, he works with wrestlers. He does like illustration work. And like, so I sent him the script, and he's like, I'm going to make these 27 changes to make it more insider. And I was like, please do. Please do. So he drew this, and there's so much like little moments of love that he put into this story. And then collaborator Timothy Fling wrote our theme song.
Eric, there's other Erics.
And the theme song's really cool. It's like Monster Mash meets Werewolf Bar Mitzvah.
I was going to say, what kind of genre is the theme song, and is it going to drive women mad and lure men to their doom, being that it's a Cthulhu theme song?
Possible. If you have sound on that thing, you can play it. It plays on
we can play. Yeah, that'd be neat. So yeah, for those of you that don't know, all of the earlier tiers on this campaign are digital. Some of them include the digital books. They have the digital the audio commentary. They have the theme song. I think the first tier, though, I was going to ask you about. It's a paper doll. Yeah, for $1, you can get like a little paper toy. Is there shipping on that?
No, it just comes digitally. You have to print it yourself.
And you print it yourself. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
You can see there's a sample of it underneath, a little bit further down on the page.
Well, play the thing so we can hear the Monster Mash.
Now some do things poorly, and some will do things well, but everybody still can agree that Cthulhu is hard to spell. The monster chased me off the porch and down the back stairwell. I broke my brain when I tried to explain Cthulhu is hard to spell. As the beast approached me, I began to scream and yell. But when asked to write what I saw that night, Cthulhu was hard to spell. It grabbed me by the short hairs, threw me around like a carousel. But still I thought, while we fought, Cthulhu was hard to spell. Yes, I fear I might never be all right, but Cthulhu is hard to spell.
And then the rest is an instrumental.
Okay, I'll listen to that later.
So you mentioned earlier you had a mnemonic device. What's the mnemonic device?
So I think you nailed it, which is it's the second H. Kth is pretty easy to remember. Ul is pretty to remember, and then U is so you miss the second H. You can remember by remembering the second H is for horror, because Lovecraft invented cosmic horror.
Oh, clever. Outcast Owls Live, that is 24 Eyes, says this project is dope. Gonna back for my son. That's
Thank
great.
you.
I think your total is just gonna keep climbing.
It's lovely.
Yeah, it does look great. So the book is 180 pages. Yeah, hardcover, $40, which is a really good deal for a hardcover 180 page book. Is there shipping on the book?
Not domestically, and I should also include that includes the audio commentary, the theme song, and the digital, which so like
and
you get all of that included.
The basic book tier, and you're doing something
deal.
very interesting with just like the one book or two book. This is definitely a campaign for Cthulhu is hard to spell, but you're offering all of your past books as well. So when you buy the one book, you can be buying Cthulhu is hard to spell, or you can get Ichabod. If you're buying 4 books, you can buy any of the books that you've offered, through your publisher. Your publishing company. I completely forgot the name of it right now.
Wannabe Press.
Wannabe Press. Weird books for weird people.
I like that.
The tagline or the slogan stuck in my head. You've got, I think, 40 tiers on this campaign, which is a little much in my opinion. It's a lot. Do you know how many add-ons you have, out of curiosity?
It's about 50.
73
on the physical tier.
On the physical tiers, you have 73 add-ons. This is a huge campaign.
Yeah, there's so much you can get.
And I think it is great because you can really pick and choose a la carte. It will be very overwhelming for some people, but if they're taking the time, because this is a campaign for, you have all of the Ichabod Jones. You have Cthulhu is hard to spell 1, 2, and 3. You've got Katrina hates dead shit. There are other ones too. There's the
Pixie Dust,
yep. And there's the fighting one. I can't remember now. It was in one of the tiers.
Fighting one.
Yeah, of course. It's like the I can't remember the name of it. What's the size of the book? Because if it's a standard hardcover, do you know what the dimensions are?
It's standard comic size, so this is 172 pages, so that would be, it's a little bit bigger than 6.625.
I'm gonna make him big. All right, there we go.
It's like 10.45 by like 6.75, something like that, about like, but this is it. Like, this is the book. Like, this is
a good solid size. Yeah.
And you can see, like, this is the first 2 volumes. And for collectors that'll appreciate this, like the spine is the same on all 3 volumes. The only thing that changes is the 1, 2, and 3. They're the same. They have the same color bookmark on the ribbon inside. Like they are effectively, aside from the inside, like the same, and they look really cool. You can see also the same thing in our Ichabod books, which now this is definitely going to fall. Like Ichabod, same thing. Like 1, 2, 3. Like they are the same. In fact, they are the Ichabod. They're the exact same size. They're all 96 pages. So
Eric hates says Just wait until you hear the dragon doo-wop. Travis Gibb is here asking who these people are. Who are these crazy fools talking about Cthulhu and spelling? Dean James is shaking his head because there are all these add-ons and not a single Dean James piece, not a one. We got Collision Bomb up in the chat. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know Mo Biggs had to go, but we'll still keep running the show. What else did we have? I think that brings us to the bottom of the chat, which is good. So what's next for you? This is another anthology that you've put out. Do you have another book in the works? Anything coming down the pipe?
Travis would kill me if I talked about the next thing that I might be doing, so I won't. Okay. But I will say that coming in, so I have this series, The Gods vs. Chronicles. And coming in,
there's like 11 of those books.
Yeah, there's 11 of them. These 4 books are launching in June, and they're going to finish the series. I have we made a timeline and a planet guide now for all the books. Neat. So this is brand new in the second editions for all 11 books. In September, we're finishing Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter with 4 volumes. So that'll be a complete standalone piece. And then next year we have Obsidian Spindle Saga. And later this year, I have the audiobook for my brand new book I've never brought to Kickstarter or put out before. It's called And in the Dark Place. So I have releases. I've finished my releases already for 2023. So I have to do some editing on them, but I got way too far in advance in the pandemic. And so I need to chill. I'm actually on sabbatical right now. So I can't draw. I can't start any new projects until September. But yeah, is
that killing you, or are you enjoying it? Are you itching to do stuff? Or
so here's the thing. I still will take paid work. So I'm still doing some paid work what that comes up. But it's both because I get panic attacks when I open the project that I've been thinking about. And when I'm not opening it, I'm thinking about it constantly. So it's a real tough, it's a real weird line that I'm in right now. Yeah. I did write some comic stuff for people, though. I haven't written any more prose things. I wrote 25 books in 26 months, though. So I think I'm due a prose sabbatical for a while.
Yeah, I'd say you'd earned it.
A prose sabbatical. All right. So that leads me to my next pitch. What kind of book haven't you done yet? And if you could do a book format that you haven't done, what would it be?
Oh, a format.
If you did poetry, a book of sonnets, what haven't you done, and what would you want to do? Because I got a pitch for you.
I'd really like to figure out how to do a webtoon. I'd really like to do a legit webtoon. I think that'd be really fun. I think the vertical scrolling, and I would like to print it vertically like this, so that people can have the same experience. I am on this is no BS. I have written everything that I've ever wanted to write my whole career. I've written 40 novels and tons of comics, anthologies. One of the big existential problems I'm having is not the desire to make things. I feel like I've said it all. I in really last November or so, I finished my second big series, and I was I think I've said it. Everything I have to say, I feel like I've said it. And it's a very weird place to be in. And it's really weird because no one that I know is in the same place as me. So it's hard to find somebody to be so what did you do when you finished your life's work? And how did you do it again? So what's the pitch? I want to hear it.
All right. Eat, Pray, Kill, a cookbook. Cthulhu horror cookbook.
That actually is awesome. Have you ever read? Have you ever read the Brain Eater's Bible?
No, I haven't, but I think I need to. Is it a cookbook?
Yeah, so it's a Bible for how to be a zombie in the apocalypse. It was done by
how to cook brains
by Pat Kilbane from Mad TV. It's so good. It came on like a flash drive, and it's like 3 gigabytes of like because it's all like interactive and like. But I at one point had the physical and the digital, and like it's really cool if you like that kind of stuff.
So yeah, I was thinking like, too small apparently. I was just, cookbook. This is a 3 gigabyte interactive digital experience plus a hardcover reader companion. I mean, like
that's really cool.
I don't know if I'm cut out to be in this industry, man. So if you had any advice for aspiring creators that are trying to get into writing, specifically writing comics, because this is kind of a comic show, but I would love to hear about any writing in particular, because you make a very good point. For writers, it really is about that craft, putting words on paper and words out there. What would that advice be?
Stop trying to sell the first thing you write. It's going to be garbage. That's okay. It's supposed to be garbage. You don't know what you're doing. Also, because it's going to be garbage, don't write in the genre that you love most of all. Go write in something you don't care about that is heavily that is heavy with tropes. For instance, if you love romance or you love fantasy, go write a romance, because romance is very, very structured. There's the characters, there's the meet cute, there's the first date, there's the misunderstanding, or write a mystery. My first 2 books were mysteries. They're where it's the crime, the discovery, the clue, the false accusation. They are very, 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 very structured. Writing sci-fi and fantasy is very hard, or writing something that is like literary, because you're just in space. You're like, what's next? And the answer is like, I don't know. I don't know what's next. Like there was no next. With comics, it's really, it's a lot easier because structure is right there. If you're going to write a comic and you insist on writing a long form, like keep it 4 to 5 issues and then write out to in, which means start on page 1 and 20 and work inward every page. So you know the end, know the beginning, have a turn every 5 pages, and have a big reveal every 10 pages. We did this a lot with Ichabod at the beginning, where it feels like you're 10 pages leading up to a monster fight, then the final 10 pages is a monster fight, or vice versa. First 10 pages is a monster fight, and I was not so sophisticated before, but you can really see it in books where, like, if you need that long thing, break up, plan to have, if on a 20-page issue, a break every 5 to 6 pages of I would do it on 6 and 10, because those are not reveal pages. Except on Ichabod, I specifically made them on the odd pages. You're not supposed to make the reveals on the odd pages because you don't want to ruin the surprise. But like, I wanted you to feel uncomfortable. So I made the reveals on the off pages sometimes to like keep you.
That's cool. Yeah, to keep you kind of off.
Yeah, Eric taking a great dig. That. Notice how Mo left right before the award-winning writer started giving advice. Mo will never write an ARO book. I don't know, man. Like it's on tape. We'll have him go watch the replay. We'll help him out. Dean said the only problem is that romance sucks. Mysteries, now that's more like it. It's only because Dean is 12 and he doesn't like the lovey-dovey stuff. Yeah. So he's still into the action and the mystery stuff. He's like totally 12.
I will say that generally every story that's worth anything has romance in it. So you're going to have to write some amount of romance. I get away without writing a lot of romance because like I was dead inside for a long part of my life. But like my books are way better now that they have a romance. They're better.
I didn't mean to laugh at you like that, but like
the delivery, the deadpan delivery.
The delivery was perfect, and also I resonate with that. It's like I didn't write that because I was dead inside for a very long time. Yep. I get it.
Yeah. But like the books are better now. My books are, and so considering that horror is a huge romance genre. Like if you like horror, you like romance because they're almost all predicated on 2 people who find each other either during the apocalypse or before the apocalypse and try to stay alive.
That's why you like it so
That's
much.
basically what romance is. So it's
well, you like relationships. You like, you like people caring about each other, and you like emotional journeys and stuff. And we were just realizing today.
The realization today. I've always said, I've hated horror movies my whole life. My sister like terrorized me with them. I'd have horrible, horrible nightmares, even if the movie itself wasn't very scary. So I'm always like, I hate horror. I can't do horror. And then I went and I picked up my pull list today, and I'm looking, I'm like, we have demons,
all horror.
Lady Mechanica, Homesick Pilots, Monstrous. Well, these are all horror.
Yeah, what you don't like are jump scare horrors. Like,
yeah, that's probably.
Like, I don't like body horror.
Accurate,
I can't deal with it. Like, I love Lovecraft Country, but that one episode of body horror, I was like, nope, this is not. She
couldn't get past the first part of American Gods with the Vegeta Dentata.
That
like, turned her off to the whole series.
Like, we're good.
That wasn't even really horror.
No,
it's just one scene.
Yeah, it was disturbing. I was like, no, thanks, I'm good.
No, I get it though. I get it. But like, I do think you need to know, you also need to know mystery really well, because if a thing doesn't have, almost all stories have some amount of mystery, thriller, and romance in them that are successful. So, but it's because you want to know, like when you get lost as a young writer, you know what the next thing is. Okay. Like I'm in between. It's now been 10 pages since I had the crime scene inspection. I really need to get to like getting a clue now. Like you know where you are in a story, and you don't know where you're at in a story when you're young writer. And by young, I don't mean age. I mean like the amount of writing that you've done.
Experience.
So you need to like have a guide. And if you're not going to pay a developmental editor, then like you need a guide. You need to like kind of make your own guide. It's also good to write something that is younger, because younger stories tend to have less developed prose and they're more blatant. With adult books, you need to be much more subtle. Whereas like with a kid's book, you can be like banging them on the head with like what the point is, and like they still probably won't get it. Those are my two biggest ones. Like, do not make your dream project first, and just know you're gonna suck. So don't write the project. Don't write in the genre that like you love, because you're just gonna know how much you suck writing it. Like it's gonna be very apparent when you go back and edit it.
I like this guy. I don't think he likes me though. He hasn't laughed at any of my jokes. Maybe it's because they're not just quite as funny as they are in your head, Dean. But you know, it's a good thing when Dean James Comics Mate says that he likes you, because it means that you're cutting to the heart of the issue, and you're really getting into like the stuff that needs to be said out loud to people so that they can hear it. I mean, that doesn't mean we're going to listen. I wrote my dream project first in the genre that I love the most.
Wrote though, it was the first thing you kickstarted. Yeah,
first thing that I've published, like hard on, full on published. And I will say you're absolutely right. For writers, the first thing you should write is something that you're not really thrilled about, like you're not really attached to. Just get writing out there. Sure. But some of us take the hard route, right?
Well, I heard the most liberating thing I ever heard was someone said that your first 10 scripts are going to suck. And I was like, awesome. Don't have to worry about those.
I'm not alone.
It's like, I just need to get through them and then I'll stop sucking. And like, it was very freeing. And like one of those scripts became My Father Didn't Kill Himself. A couple of them don't suck completely. But like, yeah, I don't want to show those 10 scripts to anyone ever again. I do like you, Comics Mate. Thank you for having so much to say. This is a very lively stream. I don't usually get this many lively streams, and so I'm like kind of taken aback.
Our chat loves our guests. Yeah. They love to tease us. They love to tease our guests. They love to interact. I mean, that's one of the great things that we have here on YouTube is a very fun audience.
Yeah, they are very fun.
Yeah, there are a lot of streams that go on, and like you develop or you cultivate an audience on YouTube of the that same type, like you're talking about cultivating an audience of recurring readers. We get recurring viewers. Frog G says, help rebuild Dean's ego after that hit from Neff. Sub to Dean James Comics Mate on YouTube. Dropping Dean's channel link in the description.
Artist from Down Under.
Yeah, our brother from Down Under. Greg saying comic streams are often interactive. Yeah, they can be, especially when you have good guests. They're very, very few. I think maybe you've had like 2 people on this show who have ever not really clicked with the chat. COVID Kev saying great looking book.
Yep.
Collision Bomb earlier said so much to choose from on this Kickstarter campaign. And I told him the physical book, which is what we all really want, starts at $40. They do go up from there. I think
so many digital options too. Which I think is great because a lot of times,
a lot of people read digital.
Especially if you're overseas, the shipping is kind of crazy. And so you have limited digital options. But you have so many different things that they can get, which is great.
Now I have a question. Are you bringing the campaign over in demand on Indiegogo?
I am. I mean, probably a couple months. Usually it takes a couple months. I usually get the payout from Kickstarter and then bring it over and I don't bring all of the tiers. So like
that's what I was going to say. You're paring down those tiers.
So the perks that happen on Indiegogo are you can get the book, you can get 2 books, or you can get the 3 books. And like you get 3 books, and like that's you can't get Ichabod or any of the other stuff. Like I keep it very, very simple. I don't do any digital stuff. The digital just comes with the book, but you're not going to get like the same because I can't have something come in like 5 months later and be like, oh crap, I need to like go and print a new pin or something like that. So
and you also know that like Indiegogo multi-tiers, like as many as those tiers probably wouldn't work. They go horizontal across the top, not vertical in a scroll. It's just that basic format makes it hard to like keep up with all of the tiers as they go that way. Most Indiegogo backers, because they are used to that, don't really like campaigns where they have to sift through that many tiers. But Kickstarter is the complete opposite. People love tiers on Kickstarter and they love having the ability to see all of those add-ons. It's like, oh, I want this and this and this. And the shopping experience on those 2 different platforms is different. So the audiences are different. Clearly, you already know that because you've gone in demand like 9 times on Indiegogo. So you know what you're up to.
Yeah, and it's hard for I get yelled at by people for making them have too many reward tiers and such. But then when I have less reward tiers, they also yell at me. But when I have too many tiers, they yell at me and also give me money for those reward tiers. So I'm like, I figure I'll just go more. I'll go more and not less.
So Dave Brink, Genuine Comics wants to know, how can you write something that you're not passionate about? How does it work? How do you do it?
So I'll give you my how I write for hire things, because generally I
think he specifically means, how do you write early scripts that you know are going to be trash?
Oh, those are the ones you should have. So how do you write something you're not passionate about? So
like you said, write romance instead of write science fiction.
Yeah. So for instance, when I started this, I wrote 2 mystery novels, and I did that because I really like Monk. Like, if you remember Monk or Psych, like it wasn't a thing I read, but like I really liked Monk. Like I understood the story, I understood the thing, but it wasn't gonna break my heart that like it was bad. Like, because I didn't read it religiously. Like Fantasy, I read religiously. Like Monk was a show that I'd watched when I was a kid. Also, like Murder, She Wrote and Columbo, and like I just had a long history of watching these shows casually. So maybe the correct thing is like not write something I'm not saying write something you hate. I'm saying like write something you have a casual interest in instead of like a deep-seated passion for. So that's, I mean, I don't know how you would write like something if you're like, I hate romance novels. I can't believe I have to write one. I would, so I did that. And when I learned to write romance novels, what I did was I slowly built romance as a bigger and bigger part of the story. So the first novel that I wrote that was really a romance novel was Invasion. Invasion was about an alien invasion, but it was about a boy who meets an alien and meets a girl in Vegas, finds out she's an alien, and that there's an alien invasion. But they had the hook was like they had to work together to save the world, and so romance played a huge part in like that story. But it was still like an alien invasion, blowy uppy story. Does that make sense? So like I would say those are the two things that I don't think. If you write something that you're not passionate about, write it short. So you can write all sorts of short stories. And like, I highly recommend, like, if you're even in the world that you love, like go out and write stories about like what happens to a doctor on a Tuesday afternoon. Like just write, it will help build out the world. Like what what like radio stations they listen to, like what city are they living in, like what bank do they go to, like all of that stuff helps build out the world. And like I don't think anyone is passionate about like what like bank a doctor goes to on a Tuesday afternoon, but like the world itself can be interesting. So if you have like a world that you're interested in, don't write the fantasy part of that world. Like write a murder mystery in that world, write a romance in that world, write like some other part of the world that's not like so granted, I know some people are in here being like, but I really love the murder mystery. Like for me, my thing is like big, long, chunky, like 1,000,000-word plus, like high fantasy novels. Like that's like my jam. That's what I like to write. So like for me, I would be like, okay, like, but what if like there's a detective agency that was in this that I want to write in there. So like, let me just write a case. Or like, in the new books that I just finished, there was like a constable's office. And I'm like, I wonder what the constable's office would be like in this city. Let me write like that book before I write this other book, because that informs also. Suddenly you're in the constable's point of view and you're like going around the city and you learn more about the city. So there are all sorts of things that you can do without writing that actual story that will help flush out the story.
That it'll help you work out, well, kind of what are the rules of this universe, of this world. If I'm in the constable's office, what are the kind of things that he's going to be dealing with or, going after? And that kind of helps you to build out all of those nebulous pieces of the world that you're creating. That's very cool.
Yeah, and it helps you also, like, even if you write something completely different, write a mystery novel, and like mystery novels are great because they generally take place in one city. Thrillers are different, but mystery usually takes place in one city, and like it teaches you world building. Really, is what mystery novels can do for you if you don't like mystery, because like it will show you, oh, this clue, I now need a coffee shop, and I now need a bakery, and I now need like a swimming pool, and I need all of these things to function. And so when you write the next one, you're like, okay, I know I need a pool and a gym and all of these things. And you slowly are building like structure. Even if you hate that book, you still will be able to like learn some piece of world building, but you have to finish it. I should tell you, like, you have to, like, you can't just write the first draft and abandon it, because where you really learn is by editing and putting it together. The whole book comes together in editing. So like, you have to be like, here are all of the things that I learned. Let me now go back and make this book not suck. What does Neil Gaiman say? Like, the second draft is for making you think that you knew what you were doing all along.
We're having an argument in the chat. Greg is saying that Nefarious, a writer grows in story development during a project which also covers world and character building, etc., which means that your best ideas as a newbie are just your current best. As you progress, you get newer and better ideas. And I'm saying, true, but do you ever do anything you don't love just for the practice? I was going to continue saying, look, I play the violin, right? I don't like etudes, but I will do etudes. I will learn etudes. I will practice and play etudes because I know the techniques that I will develop doing them will help me nail the arpeggios in the concertos that I play.
Sure.
And that's so kind of like the best analogy that I can make. Write a romance so that when you write your fantasy story and you write that tender love scene between the elf and the human, it doesn't suck and ruin your story because you don't know how to write romance because it's not your favorite genre.
Yeah, but Genuine Comics makes a really good point, and I think that it's really important is you have when you start writing, you have very few skills as a writer. Like, you don't know much about plot, you don't know much about structure, you don't know much about story, and like, part of what you have to do is find a way to construct a book that is good with your limited skill set. Like, so like making it small, take place in a town or a city, maybe use an amateur sleuth instead of like a professional one, because then they can make mistakes. If Ichabod, like, I made him an unreliable narrator specifically because I didn't know what I was doing. And so it's like, if I screw it up, I'm just going to say, that I intended to do that all along, and that he's unreliable. And like, that was like the thing. And so people don't utilize that skill set. So like, I believe you, Gregory, that like you enjoy all the stories that you wrote, but there's a rule that I have about like developing stories. And one of the rules is this story better than anything I have in development? And like, it was real easy to hit that bar 10 years ago. It is very, very hard to do that now. Yes,
Russell does do consulting on campaigns and scripts. That is indeed what he does. Eric says, my writing process is tits, pointless banner, fighting, and fight scenes. And in comics, that fare works just fine if that's what you want to put out. I mean, that's how the guys that did South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, dude, Troma Studios, man, like, that is fantastic. I love Troma. There's still a significant story underneath all of that, simplistic, somewhat tropey like violence, and it's enjoyable. Cannibal the Musical, and this other stuff. It's tits, pointless banner, fighting, and fight scenes. Doesn't mean it's going to be bad. It's just, like you said, a simple checklist of things that you want to accomplish in the writing that you create.
And also that, like, you're going to get, if you're going to get really good at writing that one thing. And like, most writers don't want to write that one thing for their whole life. Like, they want to grow as a writer, and you can tell. I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to get called out, but like, you can tell, writers that just plateau and they write one script for 20 years, and they might do it successfully. And like, that's okay if that's what you want to do. Like, frankly, H.P. Lovecraft, most of his career was done making the same story over and over again forever. But I found myself for years wanting to write other genres that were not my genre. Like, that alien invasion one was not my genre. I wrote a book set in Spain after an alternate reality because I wanted to learn how to do stuff better. I wanted to learn how to do. I thought that my books, my Gods vs. Chronicles books, were very much the same book. Like, they were good, but like, they were the same good. And like, I wanted other things I wrote to be better. I wanted them to have more romance. I wanted them to have more depth. I wanted them to be more subtle. And in order to do that, I had to write things that I wasn't comfortable writing. And so it wasn't that I wrote stuff that I hated. Like, I still really like that invasion book. I think it's a really good invasion book, but like, I'm never going to talk about that book again. Like, it happened, it came out, I'm happy with it, but like, that's not gonna be in my pantheon, in the books that like I'm remembered for. I don't think. But from some people really love that book, and like, for them it will be the thing that I'm remembered by. But like, you have these books even in your middle of your career that like, you're like, man, I'm really plateauing as a writer. I really need to figure out how to do romance, or like, I really need to figure out how to do, like, I don't know, like, better plot twists or whatever the thing is, chapter breaks. And that is like where you do these other projects. Like, other projects and other genres have strengths that your genre doesn't. Like, fantasy has a lot of strengths. They don't have all the strengths. They got a lot of weaknesses. And in order to shore up those weaknesses, it behooves you to write in other formats and other genres and other lengths. Because like, you might find that writing a 4-page story really unlocks how to pace your longer book. Because like, maybe you're going to write books and they're going to be every issue is going to be 6 4-page stories. Or you're going to write the book and it's going to be 3 8-page stories. Or 1 8-page story, 2 4-page stories, and 3 2-page stories, or however you're going to do it. These are things you're only going to know by really expanding your skill set and learning what to do. And there's nothing wrong with writing that one book. I mean, a lot of writers write one book 100 different ways. A lot of directors direct one movie 100 different ways. And like, there's nothing wrong with doing that, like, if that works for you. But I think there's some efficacy to not just as a young creator doing things you might not be comfortable doing or you might not love, but also doing that as like a more seasoned creator, because it will make your writing and the way you see the world stronger. Like, I feel only in the last year, after writing 40 books, I have a grasp, and do I understand that thing that Neil Gaiman said about the Graveyard Book, where like, he picked it up and then he put it down. Then he picked it up and he put it down. He picked it up and put it down because he wasn't a good enough writer yet. And then he finally got to the point that he's like, oh, I'm probably as good a writer as I'm ever going to be. And like, I feel that now because like I have just done so much and done such a breadth of things that like I can take on a lot of challenges. When you talk about being a full-time writer, like even if you're a full-time comics writer, like it is going to take you taking assignments that you are not comfortable doing. They're going to come in and ask you to do porn, for instance. Like you just will write porn if you're a successful comic book writer. Like you're going to write some erotica. It's going to happen because it pays really well. Like there's nothing wrong with it, but if you're not comfortable with it, like you really should get comfortable with doing that kind of story because it's going to happen. Says,
when you write about tits, you never plateau. Boom, boom.
That one I liked. That was funny.
Dave Brink says, yeah, there are certain genres I don't think I can write because I have no affinity with it. So if asked, I would politely decline. Yeah, I think what we're all going to come to the consensus of this. You can't write what you hate. You can write things that you're not thrilled about, but you can't ever write anything that you don't enjoy well.
Sure.
Which is why getting a romance story under your belt, which you could do, like you said, formulaically, because it's very structured and you can just hit those specific parts of the book. Honestly, you chop it up the way you butcher a cow, right? Like you have all of the different cuts of meat and you just go down the line. You fill this, you fill this, you fill this, and it's done. You do that to actually like have something written. It's not like you're falling in love with it though. When you want to finesse a story, when you really want to gild the lily on those scripts, that's the stuff you're in love with. And I think the idea is you don't try and publish the thing you're in love with first. I mean, of course I did, and it worked perfectly, but I'm the exception to the rule, guys. Don't listen to me, listen to him, listen to Russell. He's famous, he's a USA Today best-selling author. I'm a guy who made one comic book, whatever.
Well, it's also just like, so I'll give you an example of my literal current life. I was hired to do a superhero short. And like, I don't do superhero comics. I just don't do them. Like, they're not a thing that I'm passionate about. That I read a lot of, but I read through the material before I said yes, and I was like, oh, there are these two really cool characters that are kind of like the only two girls on this superhero team, and like I thought it would be interesting if like they finished the mission and they went out to get boba, and like they just talked about how weird it was they were the only two girls in the superhero team. And like, that's a thing that I really, 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 really cared about. And so like, that is another thing that you often have to do. You have to take material that, and I like the world. Like I read this books and like, I really like the world. I was just worried that like a superhero story is not like where my strength is. So I found where my strength was in that material and was able to deliver something that I hope that the writer, that the creator liked, and it's something I also loved in the material. Again, want to say again, like if you're watching, I really, really like the world. It's just like I generally don't write men. That's not my thing. So yeah, like that's something that happens now. Like it literally happened like in the last couple of months that like. And it happens every time. Really, it happens every time I'm hired for something where I'm like, oh, I don't know how to do this kind of thing. Like, and you find what you love in the material and how to make it yours, because that's the writing. Like that's the part of being a writer is like they're hiring you, but they're hiring your take on what they are. If they wanted to do their story, they would hire themselves. They're hiring you because they like what you're going to bring to the material and how you see the world. And so it's on you to like go into these assignments or go into your own career or go into genres that are kind of weird and you might not like, or you might not think you like, and you might find out you love them. Because like, here's the thing is like, I love writing romance now. Like, I think it's great. Like it's a huge time suck of like plot. So like, if you have got to get 80,000 words into a book, like you could spend a lot of time on romance and like it can stop the plot dead and like, it's okay because it's romance. So there's all these things you might find that you love. When I was younger, I didn't know I'd love negotiating contracts. Like that's a weird thing for like a writer to know that they love. But like I learned that I love that then. So like you might try a thing. You might try a murder mystery and be like, oh man, I really do love murder mysteries. Like maybe I want to write. Maybe I don't just want to write straight fantasy. Maybe I want to write supernatural suspense, which is basically like paranormal thrillers. Right. Or maybe I want to write paranormal romance where there's monsters and romance. And there's all of these things you might learn that you love. Or you might learn a technique that's like, that is a really sneaky trick that thriller writers use. And I'm using that now. I'm just going to steal it into my own writing because it's better than what I'm doing now. And it makes you a better writer in that way as well. I know that's a lot. There's a lot of writing advice. The other thing, the one thing I'll say honestly, is there's like write short stories. If you're going to an anthology, write the shortest number first. Like if it's a 2, 4, 6, or 8 page and you're young, like do 2 pages. Don't do 4, 6, or 8. Do the minimum page count because you have the best chance of getting in this book with the minimal page count because frankly, people don't want to take a chance on new people.
Yeah, that's true. That and honestly, self-publishing will also help you learn to make your own mistakes and fail by your own hand and get back up and try again. That's one of the things that I like about it because you can't really blame any failures that you have on anyone else, and you have to be responsible for your own success. You have to really work hard in self-publishing and learn the things that you don't know. Realize the things that you don't know, and then find out how to do those things. And it really becomes a course in self-mastery doing that. I think it's great with all the writing advice. Honestly, I would love to have you on, as often as I can just to talk about writing. I know we were here talking about the book. I feel like, of course we ran away from that, but conversations evolve naturally. I don't want to say organically, but
well, it works because you're up to 600 backers now.
That's pretty cool.
Yay.
Yeah. Yay. 600 backers.
Yay, thank you.
32,721. So you're positive for the day for sure.
We are positive for the day. That's awesome. Thank you, everyone. And I'm happy to come back as often as you want and give tons of advice. I'm overwhelming. I'm overflowing with advice that I have done over the years. But you'll also, if you get into an anthology, even at the lowest number, like you will learn how to do an anthology. Like they'll teach you. Like it's a every anthology that I've been in has been a masterclass in like how to write, how to edit, like how to like make something that is publishable. And if you're young, like there's no better way to start than with an anthology. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I think this is great. Do you have any thoughts on Roach Balls? I don't think he's familiar with Roach Balls. Do you want to load up the trailer for Roach Balls for Russell before we get out of here? Because we are going on the 2-hour mark, and I don't want to take up that much of his time. It's the second day in a row where we've just had a really great conversation.
Usually I pay attention to the time, but we
try and structure it. I mean, I threw out my notes a long time ago. His thoughts on Goofanoid. We're not going to talk about Goofanoid.
No one wants to talk about.
No one wants to talk about a clown superhero. It didn't work. The formula wasn't working in the first place. Okay. So yeah, just share the screen. Rich Ayala has put together a book called Roach Balls. It is in kind of like the style of the old outlaw underground comics of Robert Crumb from back in the day. It's sort of the 90s, like gross. I think he describes it as Garbage Pail Kids meets Sin City. That's kind of the pitch. Take a look at this and see what you think.
Welcome to Cat Shit Island. A toxic, radioactive nightmare. To survive the freaks, beasts, and gangs, balls. Dream it, love it, touch it, clutch it, shoot it, smoke it, snort it, fuck it. I be on another level. Call of Duty, took that metal. They so fruity, call it pebble, make it bubble.
Well, I'm laughing, so that's a good sign. I hope I'm supposed to be laughing.
Bring it back, they call it sequel. Treat it right, I be so equal. I'm so fly, I be like equal. Just so that they say I'm real.
This really makes me want to do better for my videos now.
Rich Ayala's Roach Balls.
Yeah, that looks pretty fun.
Is it? Doesn't it though? Like it really is breaking out of some of the stale stuff that we've seen lately. I'm really excited for this campaign. It's doing really well. Sully's a great character. You got a lot of people pulling, their own talents to try and get this stuff done. Like that trailer is really fire. Exactly.
Who
Dave Briggs, like that trailer is really
fire. Who the hell did that trailer, man? That's a fucking awesome trailer.
Dying Days,
yeah, and Arrogant Ape, and of course Rich's art, almost as good as the Perfect 10 trailer. I agree that your trailer was great, but honestly, that trailer makes me embarrassed of my trailer.
And we loved our trailer.
And at the time my trailer was out, everyone was going, "Oh, it's such a good trailer." So we're all trying to up that game now.
Set the new bar.
Yeah, set the new bar. That's the other thing that I love about this community. Everyone helps. Everyone chips in. If they're excited about a project, it's all promotional. It's all, what can we do to spread the word? How do we, involve ourselves in helping this campaign be successful? People lend their talents and their skills, editing, composition, artistry, people doing variant covers.
And telling us all about their writing tips and tricks.
Like this. I mean, that's the fun thing about self-publishing, right?
It's awesome.
And talking and networking with other indie creators. I've had a really great time today. That's a masterclass in After Effects. Yes, it's true. He's definitely using that After Effects pro and getting all of the money out of it.
Well, it's very dope. 2 thumbs up. Like, looks great.
Awesome. So that's his thoughts on Roach Balls. The award-winning author thinks Roach Balls is awesome. You can use the little quote on the campaign page now. Wait until you see the Gun Demon trailer in the works. I have progressive metal breakdowns by the Dark Atom in the trailer. Boom. All right. Bow, Greg. We can't wait to see that. So, Russell,
coming to Kickstarter soon.
Oh, nice. Cool. Do you want to get the last word before we pack it up and get out of here?
Sure. I mean, go to CthulhuIsHardToSpell.com and check out the book. It's pretty cool. I also write other pretty cool books that you can find at russellnohelty.com. Like Neff, maybe you'll go down a rabbit hole for an hour, for a long time and see all the books. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. I've done a lot in my career, but I'm very blessed to be here and to meet awesome people like you guys and to continue to be working in indie comics a decade later.
Arrogant says, "When do you see my trailer? It's just a tractor trailer, but I put some funny stickers on the bumper."
I do want to see
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. All right. So, do you have a channel by any chance? I know there was a question earlier. We have your press kit. By the way, thank you for having a press kit. Thank you so much for all of the information in there. It made it so much easier to research you. We can put all of the links in the description of the video without having to go hunt them down ourselves. Yep. Quick message to all you creators out there: get a press kit together. I know we have one. It's great that Russell has one. Do you have a YouTube channel, or do you?
I do. It's just my name. I don't think I upload on it. I haven't uploaded since I ended my campaign, my podcast. But there's a bunch of old podcast episodes on there somewhere. I think it's Nohelty R.
And dropped it in the chat.
Oh, so earlier. Of course Frog G found it already.
Yeah, and I'll edit. So all the other links are already in the description, including the link for Cthulhu's Hard to Spell, and it's also pinned in the chat. But I will add that YouTube channel into the links.
Yeah, and maybe you'll consider hosting I don't know, like a writer stream or something. StreamYard like this it's free,
I did host a virtual conference called Alt FCD, which is back in 2020 when there was no free comic book day. We did a 2-day live stream where we had Marv Wolfman on and Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor and a bunch of people. I also do another one called the Online Writers Conference, and all of that is on my YouTube channel. There's just so much old stuff though. Even if I'm not posting live, like you can go back and get like a literal masterclass in all of this stuff.
Very cool. Yeah, I will definitely edit
Yeah, we're definitely going to go check that out and like squeeze all the intelligent juice out of it. So that's going to be it for us tonight, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, hanging out with us and Russell Nohelty talking all about Cthulhu is Hard to Spell. Make sure you go check out the campaign on Kickstarter. And if you're not interested in backing it on Kickstarter, wait till it migrates its way over to Indiegogo and goes into demand, because this book is really exciting. Russell's a great writer, and we're just very happy to be supporting the project. Don't forget to like the video, please subscribe, click the bell for notifications,
and tune into the frequency.
We'll see you next time.